The amazing thing is, whether you meant to or not, whether it was intentional or not, or whether you're just a dickhead, like I said previously, you've probably done more damage to creators of all kinds, and that includes queer creators, black creators, Asian creators, Hispanic creators, creators from all over the planet, from every continent in the world. You've probably done more damage to them and their livelihoods than what Steven Crowder has potentially allegedly done to you and has really hurt you. You've done more damage by screwing up potentially ad revenue and AdSense for all these people. There are people out there who this month would have quit their job and said, I can finally pursue YouTube. I can finally do it from all facets of life, all walks of life, and you have fucked them over by doing this. You're disgusting. Honestly, this just popped in my head. You're disgusting. You've fucked people over who use YouTube as an outlet and a possibility to move forward in life. Fuck you. So please, just speak for yourself. Don't speak for anyone else. Because you've done enough fucking damage.
The problem is that YouTube creates a platform where figureheads are able to rally and mobilize huge amounts of these bad actors. Steven Crowder is not an anomaly. He is YouTube's ideal creator. He's providing them with cheap, constant, highly engaging bullshit. And if you are a platform that is built to reward that stuff, stopping one person doesn't fix the problem, because the incentives on your structure reward bigotry. You give them a free platform to broadcast to millions. You are giving these people a weapon to harass them. If you're subscribed to YouTube Premium or are doing anything that gives money to YouTube, you should cancel that shit and say, I don't want to give money to a corporation that makes queer people and people of color miserable.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, for fuck's sake. Please just don't use that term. I honestly hate it so much. It's one of those terms which the far left used a lot, and now it's sort of creeping into general use in society, and it's mind-blowing. Why? The only thing similar about a person of color with another person of color who's not of the same race is that they're not white. Why? It blows me away. Why am I more likely to be on your side of things when I don't know you? Okay, don't speak for me, but if there's a random black person or a random Hispanic person or East Asian person, and then there's a white person, why am I more like those set of people than the white person straight away? One, we're all human. Two, I might agree with you on certain issues and I might agree with the white person on certain issues. But to say that it's all lumped together is absolutely ludicrous. And it's something, the grouping of this stuff, when there's nothing and no connection between the people. It's disturbing. It really is. I hate that term specifically, people of color. It's like, well, white's a color. I mean, white and black are shades, but I mean, you know, you're just discounting, you know, billions of people from being a color. That's a bit discriminatory. I don't know, but I really don't like that term. But to the point at hand, which is freedom of speech, basically. So, there's a big boycott apparently being planned on YouTube. Not just for advertisers, but YouTube itself is apparently banning people left, right, and center because of, well, their speech, whether it's hateful, whether it's for political reasons, whether people are just being mean and bullies. And it all started because of this little dickhead over here. Yeah, I'm going to call him what he is, a little dickhead from Vox Media, you know, the dying brand that it is. This guy has caused a ruckus because he got his feelings hurt. And this is 100% true. The guy got offended by something, another YouTuber, a guy called Steven Crowder. I've watched some of his stuff. Don't agree with him on everything. I probably don't agree with him on most things. But paramount above all is his freedom to say what he wants. And I would fight for that freedom, for him to speak what he means and speak what he wants to say over your freedom, Mr. Voxman. Lil Dickhead. I don't want to say Lil Dickhead because that's like Lil Dicky and I respect Lil Dicky. The dickhead over there. I would fight for his right to say shit over your right to ban him. Even though I probably agree with points on both of your sides politically. Now, the problem is Steven Crowder says stuff which some people would deem as racist. I wouldn't really deem it as racist. I personally wouldn't say it in general, but some people would take it that way. The problem I have with this type of stuff is the stuff Steven Crowder said is the stuff this Vox guy, I don't know his name, I'm sorry. I guess Steven Crowder is more popular than you on the internet. I honestly don't know your name. I was going to say a name, and if it's wrong, then people are just going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Steven Crowder said some rather colourful things about you, but he said things which you've said about yourself. You know, you call yourself certain things online and you refer to yourself as queer, which I thought queer was a fine word to say now, but now apparently it's not. I suppose it's different in the UK and US. Maybe certain words are good here and certain words are bad there. But yeah, he said a lot of, he used a lot of colourful language. And this guy got pissed off with it. He said he was being homophobic and racist, and I don't think he was being racist. He called him Mexican, I think, and I mean, if saying you're Mexican that's like saying I'm Indian. That's not racist, I'm sorry. It's just not racist. You need to grow up, I think. It's weird, I think that a lot of people who are, and this guy is definitely very far left, and then there are people, I don't think Steven Crowder is very far right, but he's definitely right wing. You know, I mean, Richard Spencer is like far right. Steven Crowder is not far right, okay? But this guy is far left, okay? He is I don't know. He's in a way he's a fascist in some ways, which sort of loops round again. But it's a confusing thing. He quantums at the end of the day, doesn't it? The super far right basically is fucked up, and the super far left is fucked up in very similar ways because they're so fucked up. But this is just off the cuff, guys, if you couldn't tell, because I'm just absolutely spewing garbage. But the point is, this guy obviously doesn't know how to cope in the real world, this Mr. Vox man, because if he's getting offended by someone's language and the way someone says something about you, man, I don't know what type of life you led, but it must have been a very sheltered one. Because if your skin is this thin that something a random person on the internet says about you can piss you off and can get under you so much that you need to cause a blow-up situation where YouTube needs to be boycotted and creators need to be banned and demonetized. It speaks wonders about you, and I think that most sane people, even if they disagree with Steven Crowder on most things, which I feel a lot of people probably do, they would be on his side here. Me as an independent creator, I'm on Steven Crowder's side. I don't care. I honestly don't. He is an independent creator. You are part of the mass media. You have hundreds of millions of pounds, not you personally, but your company has hundreds of millions of pounds worth of investment from multiple mass media companies. And I just think that I think that these companies are really trying to claw onto any bit of relevance they can because they know that their time is coming. These, you know, small, well, previously large, small, cutting their staff companies. These companies are really reducing the amount of workers they have on the daily. It's absolutely amazing. Amazingly bad. I don't want anyone getting fired, but it's amazing to see it, how quickly this shift is actually happening. They're firing so many people because they're just not having the advertisement revenue, I guess, on their sites. And this guy is part of that. He has this bubble. He has a salary. He has XYZ from this company. And then there's this guy who makes money off of merchandise. That's basically how he makes money. Like, he's an entrepreneur, all right? And I appreciate that over most things. And that's why I like him over you in this instance. Now, you could say you've been bullied in this instance, but I have a weird relationship with bullying. I personally feel I was bullied a lot when I was younger. Not so much anymore because I got I'm a dickhead as well. We're all dickheads in one way or another. But yeah, I got bullied a lot when I was younger. And honestly, it's water off a duck's back. Honestly, that's just how I feel about it, you know? Eventually you'll grow up and you'll figure out that, wow, some people are just arseholes. They're just arseholes. Some people are. And that's absolutely fine. You're going to meet people who you don't like in the world. It's just how you deal with them. You just don't give them satisfaction. I just feel that bullying is actually an integral part of one's development as a human being. It's very odd, you know, people will disagree with me, but I feel like I could write something on bullying and people would just be outraged by it because I think it's quite a constructive thing in the long term. People will just, I'm going to be lambasted if this goes anywhere. But yeah, I do feel that it's very important to your development, especially as a kid. It shows you how to deal with situations which you're not comfortable with, and how you should handle those instances. Now, I mean, this is very off topic now, but a couple of days ago, I was out and this woman was sitting close to me, and this guy just walked over to her and started harassing her for all intensive purposes. All right, straight up harassing her. I didn't think it was harassment for like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, because no one else did anything around. And I was like, oh, it must be nothing. I'd had headphones in and just didn't notice anything else. And then she sort of backed away from the guy like this. Like she was literally like this, like, what the fuck's going on here? And I turned around and he was literally in her face, screaming at her in a non-English language. It was an African man. I don't know what language he was speaking, but it weren't English. I know that for sure. And I was like, are you okay? Are you okay, ma'am? And then I was like, Tim, are you okay? And it sort of went on for like a couple minutes. And eventually I was just like, all right, do you want to leave or do you want me to make you leave? You can decide what you want to do. I mean, it's something cheesy like that, you know. and then he left. He said, "Fuck off," "fuck you," and then left. Preceding it, it was a lovely altercation. Probably stupid on my part. I mean, I do live in London, so sort of the knife capital of the Western world in a way, right now. So you have to consider those things when doing stupid shit, and people were just like, "Wow, that's pretty stupid of you. You could have been shanked if he had a knife." I was like, "Yeah, you're right," but then this random person was just being harassed. She was very, very uncomfortable. You could say, oh, you were just white knighting. I don't think it was that. Like, the person was genuinely very disturbed by this individual who was just screaming at her in another language. Very, very odd situation. Sort of been an odd week in general. That sort of topped it off, though. But the point is, with that, I think if I hadn't been bullied and gone through that, I wouldn't have stood up for someone else. You know? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think that actually built me the character to take action in a small way, when someone else needed help. Now, I don't know what you've done, Mr. Voxman, in your time, but I don't know if you've stopped someone being harassed or stopped someone doing something. Now, I'm not some great human being. Let's not play. I'm just a regular person who was brought up to, if you see something wrong, you should try and do something about it if you can. The odd thing is, I feel Steven Crowder would intervene in that situation and try and stop it. I don't know. It's an odd thing, because I don't agree with Steven Crowder in the things he generally says. And I also don't agree with this motherfucker either, Mr. Voxman. So you're in this predicament where if you're centered, you're sort of in a limbo with everything nowadays, because someone's going to get pissed off with what you say regardless of what you say. Yeah. My point is, at the end of all of this, YouTube is capitulating and is letting down their guards to this ridiculous regressive policy and regressive ideology that is being sprung on them by dying media outlets. And I think soon enough, when these media outlets all eventually do collapse, maybe we'll be able to get back to some normality of freedom of speech where there's not this faux outrage. Because for me, it just belittles serious instances of racism and homophobia. It really does. And I think most people who are level-headed and have any common sense will actually look at this and say, well, I don't agree with the Vox guy. I don't agree with the guy who's backed by a $1 billion company. I don't think Vox is a $1 billion company, but they're backed by Universal, and Universal is a $1 billion company. Yeah, I think if anyone looks at this objectively, they would say they side with Steven Crowder, because freedom of speech is paramount. Also, just to point out, this guy, I'm going to put his picture up if I can find one. This guy says that Steven Crowder is vile, racist, homophobic. I'm sure Steven Crowder will have been accused of saying sexist things as well. I don't know. So he says things. He says a lot of things. He talks a lot. Man, the guy can really natter on. But he never calls for violence, as far as I've read, as far as I've seen. I've watched some of the Change My Mind stuff. I think it's actually a very interesting series. You know, it's genuinely a conversation the guy's having with people on random college campuses, university campuses. I think it's a clever idea. I'm surprised no one thought of it before. Bloody genius. But he talks a lot, and he has rhetoric, you would say, right? He never calls for violence. He never doxes people. He never says, do X, Y, Z, go and attack this person. This guy, this Mr. Vox dickhead man, literally calls for violence against people he disagrees with. He calls for you to assault them, to throw things at them, to belittle them to the point where they don't want to walk outside, basically. He wants you to take and strip people of basic rights because they disagree with him. That's not what Steven Crowder wants. He seemingly, from the Change My Mind stuff at least, wants to have a conversation and try and convince you. Now, I haven't watched all the Change My Mind stuff, but it's something that went super viral, and I think most people are aware of it now. He's there to listen to the opposing argument. My problem right now is people on the left just don't want to hear the opposing argument. People on the right will actually have a chat with someone on the left, but someone on the left will just not engage with someone who they deem as racist. And it blows me away. I mean, honestly, I've become much more aware of politics across the world over the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years. I mean, I'm relatively, that's a lie, I've been aware for years. But specifically the American system, I've come to learn and understand more and more over the past 3 years, since Donald Trump, basically. And I think that the Democrats have a couple of good bets, you know, but they're not going to get them to win the primary. I mean, if you had Tulsi Gabbard, you know, having a debate with Donald Trump, I think Gabbard has a real good chance of actually slamming him one, you know? And I think Trump has done XYZ bad, but he's also done XYZ good for the economy. So there's a trade-off, obviously, with any politician and what they do and what's good and bad. But I think Tulsi Gabbard could really give Trump a run for his money if she were to win the primary. I just don't think there's any chance in hell that she will. Also, Andrew Yang, I disagree with universal basic income vehemently. I don't think it works. I like the framing he's given it, though, because it doesn't seem like it's a handout. He's making it seem like it's just capitalism, a boosted capitalism. So it's really weird how narrative can really shift your entire viewpoint. And I think he will convince a lot of people that it's a good idea. I genuinely don't think it's a good idea at this moment in time. Maybe there'll come a point where automation is that bad, where something will be needed. But I think those two could actually embarrass Trump on a stage. I think everyone else, as far as I've seen, there are like 20 nominees or something. Everyone else would get ripped apart by Donald Trump. He would destroy them so badly. I think that policy-wise, those two, Gabbard and Yang, actually have said stuff which engages with a lot of people. The others have just been like, oh, we're anti-Trump, we're anti-Trump. Like, you're not gonna win by just saying we're anti-Trump, we're anti-Trump. You need the people in the center, people like me, to say, I'm gonna vote for you, instead of saying I might vote for you. You know, by saying I'm anti-Trump and not saying policy and not saying policy that makes sense, that can logistically be put in place, you're not going to win anyone over. So this turned into a bit of a random rant in a way about politics in general. My point is, freedom of speech is number one above all, okay? I will fight for Steven Crowder's right for freedom of speech over this guy's offended opinion that Steven Crowder has said mean words to him, okay? You, my friend, can fuck right off. And I'm not going to say anything else, because I'm not going to insult him for who he is, because, you know, I'm just going to be straight here, and that's what Yep. Sorry. Now, I'm not going to say sorry. I said straight in a different way, but then I was like, but the guy's gay, maybe he'll be like, oh, you've offended me by saying... I don't know. I really don't. YouTube is a great platform. One of the best in the world. Let's try and keep it that way, okay? It would be really good if you don't cave. Wonderful. I've been NarendraTheComic. You've been great, and I'll see you next time. Scud. That was wrong. Skuddish.